Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to things that only baby boomers will remember. Now, I love these kind of lists because it just gives you a glimpse into a bygone era, times that have long since passed, and gives me a lot of nostalgia. I don't know why, because I'm not a baby boomer. I think a baby boomer is at least 50, 55. So they were born around from the 60s to the 70s, something like that. So they're between 50 and 65. So life must have been way different in that era, but probably so much simpler. People are probably happier as well. So it's going to be fun to see if I recognize some of these things.
One unique experience that was a part of many baby boomers' lives was the tradition of waiting for the milkman to deliver fresh milk.
Yeah, I remember
Before
this.
the widespread use of refrigeration, milk was delivered to homes in glass bottles early in the morning by a milkman. Families would often leave their empty bottles outside their doors the night before, and in the morning, the milkman would replace them with fresh, cold bottles of milk. The milk was typically delivered in a small truck with a distinctive design, and the milkman would often whistle or shout to announce his arrival. The practice was popular throughout the 1950s and 60s, with many families relying on the milkman for their daily supply of milk.
Man, I remember we used to have a milkman in the early thousands. I think we used it for a year or so. But yeah, so I think in England anyway, I think some people still use milkmen today in some parts of England, like rural parts.
SNH green stamps were a ubiquitous part of many baby boomers' childhoods. These trading stamps were first introduced in the 1930s by the Sperry and Hutchinson Company, and quickly became a popular way for consumers to save money on purchases. Retailers would offer the stamps as a reward for spending money in their stores, and customers could then redeem them for a variety of products, ranging from kitchen appliances to outdoor gear. The stamps were even featured in a popular jingle, "Save them, trade them, for gifts you'll adore. SNH green stamps, they're worth asking for." Despite the decline in popularity of trading stamps in the 70s, many look back on their SNH green stamps collection with fondness and nostalgia for a simpler time.
Kind of like an early iteration of the store card, like the loyalty card system, isn't it? Basically the same thing, you just don't have to collect the stamps. I reckon some of those stamps are probably vintage items now,
Speaking of a simpler time, do you remember clipping baseball cards to your bikes? During the 1950s and 1960s, baseball cards were hugely popular among kids, and one common way to show off your collection was to attach them to your bike spokes with a clothespin. As you rode, the cards would flicker against the spokes, creating a unique and satisfying sound that was instantly recognizable to other kids in the neighborhood. Some kids even traded cards based on their ability to create the loudest and most impressive sound.
Yeah, I used to collect Pokemon cards. Those are the only cards I collected. And I woke up one day and because I went to go and live in Lagos for a year and got back from Lagos after that year and the cards were gone. And I had a Charizard shiny, which probably is worth a decent amount of money now. My dad, man.
Drive-in movie theaters were popular in the 1950s and 60s and provided a fun and social experience for families and couples. Moviegoers would park their cars in front of a giant screen and watch the latest films while snacking on popcorn and other treats. The theaters were particularly popular during the 50s and 60s with over 4,000 drive-ins in operation across the U.S. at their peak. Many of the theaters were decorated with neon lights and colorful signs, and some even offered playgrounds and miniature golf courses to help keep the kids entertained.
They should bring this back. They really should. I think people would love this today. It'd be such a, you can eat what you want in your car. and you could go with your friends, park alongside them. I think people would dig this today.
Back home on the TV screen, families enjoyed some iconic TV shows. One television show that was a beloved part of many childhoods was Bonanza. This classic Western series premiered in 1959, and it ran for an impressive 14 seasons, making it one of the longest-running television shows in history.
All time, right? Yeah.
The show followed the lives of the Cartwright family, who lived on a ranch in the rugged territory of Nevada in the 1860s. Patriarch Ben Cartwright and his three sons Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe faced a variety of challenges, from land disputes to personal conflicts. The show was notable for its strong family values, complex characters, and beautiful outdoor scenery. It also featured a memorable theme song, which is still instantly recognizable to many fans today.
Yeah, I've heard of Bonanza. Like a lot of comedians, older comedians, reference it in their jokes. Must have been a really big cultural thing at the time. Looking sharp.
Music is the backdrop for every generation.
The Beatles.
But there was one cultural phenomenon that swept through the baby boomer generation that nothing since can rival: Beatlemania. This term describes the intense fan frenzy that surrounded the British band, the Beatles, during the mid-1960s. With their catchy pop songs, mop-top hairstyles, and charming personalities, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr captured the hearts and imaginations of millions of fans around the world. The group's appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 drew a record-breaking 73 million viewers, and their subsequent tours and albums only fueled the fire of Beatlemania. Fans would scream, cry, and faint at their concerts, and the group's influence on music, fashion, and culture cannot be overstated.
Yeah, the Beatles they're probably are they the most successful band or popular band of all time? I'm trying to think of who else can rival them. The Jacksons, no. Michael Jackson obviously was huge himself, but I don't think the Jacksons nowhere near. The Rolling Stones, they were huge, but nah, I think the Beatles still pip them there. Spice Girls, but the Spice Girls were very brief, 5 years-ish. What other bands can rival the Beatles in terms of legacy? I don't think there's any out there actually.
And while you watched all these things from home, you could enjoy a Swanson TV Dinner. These prepackaged meals were introduced in 1953, and they were initially marketed as a convenient way for busy families to enjoy a complete meal in front of the television. The meals included a main course, such as turkey or Salisbury steak, as well as a selection of sides, including mashed potatoes, corn, and even dessert. They were heated in the oven and served in a divided tray, making them easy to eat without the need for additional dishes. The TV dinner was an instant hit, with millions of families across the country incorporating them into their weekly meal plans.
Basically an early version of the ready meal. I don't know if you call them ready meals in America, in North America. Here, a ready meal is one of those meals that you just stick in the microwave for 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and it's like rice or pasta or something like that.
Instant hits came in the form of technology too, in the form of the electric calculator. Before the invention of calculators, people relied on manual methods, such as slide rules and abacus, to perform mathematical calculations. However, with the introduction of electronic calculators in the 1960s and 70s, the process became much easier and more efficient. The first handheld calculator was introduced in 1967 by Texas Instruments, and it revolutionized the field of math, science, and engineering. It was compact, portable, and reliable, making it an essential tool for many professions, including accountants, engineers, and scientists. Students obviously loved them too.
What's this?
Do you remember talking to the operator? Before the advent of automated phone systems, people would have to speak to a human operator to make a phone call, or to get information. Operators were typically female and were trained to assist with phone-related tasks, such as connecting long-distance calls, providing phone numbers, and making emergency calls. You could dial 0 to reach an operator, and sometimes you could even strike up a conversation with them while you were waiting for your call to be connected. Operators were often seen as friendly and helpful, and many folks recall them as a reassuring presence in times of need.
Aww.
Speaking to a human operator remains a nostalgic reminder of simpler times.
That's a nice touch.
Simpler times. Many might even say better times. It's certainly fun to remember, and it's important to never forget.
Great video. That human operator concept, I think, is a nice touch because, you know, especially in times like these where loneliness is a huge problem. Like, people feel disconnected even though we are, you know, connected over the internet. Like, having someone that you can just press 0 and there's another human there that you can speak to. Obviously, their job is not to really be a counselor, it's to connect you to where you want to actually speak to. Having someone there, no matter what, I think it's a cool thing. And I think if a company was to actually, you know, create a service where you can just speak to someone, you know, and form a friendship over the phone, that could be an idea, honestly. But yeah, like, it's always fun to see these videos about times gone by because, as the narrator said, you know, obviously things weren't perfect in those eras, but, you know, compared to how things are now, I think in some aspects they probably were. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.